So one of the epic things about the travel is to take the iconic journeys to the iconic places. Marrakesh was where we wanted to be. And that was because just a year before that, I was at Woodstock and I got to see Crosby, Stills and Nash unveil the Marrakesh Express. All aboard that train, all aboard, choo-choo. And we got on that rickety old train and we traveled. It was about 4 hours, took a little longer than expected. And it was really a time of singing and joy because we were on our way to where we wanted to go. The pilgrimage was just about over, or so we thought. And there we were, all aboard that train.
And the destination Marrakesh was. Wow, this famous marketplace. It was just a fantastic, phantasmagorical situation, the lights, the colors. And of course, one of the amazing things about Morocco is, as I delved into it, I realized that we had come into Morocco during the Islamic month of Ramadan, which meant that nobody eats during the day, at least certainly not those who go by the faith of Islam. And we come in there and it takes a while to figure out where the hell you are. People are wearing robes and they got head scarves on and they've got hoods on and everything is all exotic. And you walk around and finally you start to figure out, oh my God, these people aren't eating all day long. And this goes on for a whole month. And the market literally explodes at night when those who are the faithful come out and say, oh, we're eating. And they stay up all night long. So there's this kind of a buzz going on, even in our hotel, which we wound up staying in. And it was very close to the market. You wanted to be near the fantastic market of Marrakesh. And there it is. So me and my Swiss German buddies, we stumble off the train, the Marrakesh Express, after singing Crosby, Stills and Nash's numbers in our head all the way through. But we get into Marrakesh. And after seeing the great market, we find a hotel very close to the market because this is where we wanted to be, in this cool, exotic place. And there we found the Hotel Essaouira. There it is behind me. It was pretty cool, but it was kind of funky. It makes it look a lot better than it is, but it was quite adorned. And I really enjoyed the Hotel Essaouira because it was full of Western travelers. And it was a place where I could meet a lot of people. The two Swiss German guys and I were having a ball and I really enjoyed them, but I realized I wasn't going to stay with them for long and I was kind of looking for some company. So here's this cool hotel and we actually would go up on the roof and we'd look out and we could see the high Atlas Mountains out in the distance. It was quite an extraordinary place and I really enjoyed it, but I met a lot of people. I met Nancy and I met Rod and I met Marshall and I met the ladies from England, and it was a whole kind of scene. And there were little market restaurants near us and we would go into the market and eat or go into little restaurants and just enjoy ourselves. Of course, we were smoking the local keef and there was all kinds of activity because we kids were playing with drugs. And it was a big deal for us because, in the United States, you really couldn't get this stuff. And Morocco was a mecca for this. They had the keef, which was ground up marijuana that all the men were smoking. They had hashish. And if you wanted to, you could go into the Berber part of the market. This is the special white people who lived in Morocco for thousands of years, who still lived there even after the Muslims came in, the Arabs came in and took over the place, like in 700 AD, really, 1,000 years ago and more. But there were places to go where you found little secrets, like the opium ponds. Oh my God. So today's date, you can go on the internet and find out that the Riyadh Hotel Essaouira is still there. And it is in many ways typical of Morocco. The picture you see is the interior court. The buildings in Morocco face inside. They don't have backyards, they don't have front yards, they face the street, but they have courtyards. And this beautiful exotic area in the hotel itself is very cool. It looks a lot better than it really is though, frankly, because this is kind of a third-class place and it was cheap enough for me as a hippie and a traveler with little or no money that I could stay there. because you certainly weren't going to sleep out in the streets in Morocco, and certainly not in Marrakesh. The streets there are filled with beggars and street people, and it was really a kind of a disgusting scene, really, but it was something that was kind of cool. I would walk around the streets, and all of a sudden some old man would go, yo, yo, yo. And, oh my God, they kind of did that, I think, to freak you out. But then you would escape back and get back to the Hotel Essaouira, which had some ambiance. And of course, as I said earlier, I love that rooftop. It was a place of solace and a place of quiet calm away from the madness and the exoticism of the streets below, and particularly the wonderful marketplace. I knew the end would come soon with my Swiss German guys, because we really didn't have any particular bond other than the fact that we enjoyed each other and found each other traveling along. And of course, at one point they said, au revoir. In fact, au revoir is the right thing, because you have to understand that in Morocco, there's a second culture there, the French. The French came in and actually colonized North Africa, basically Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and formed their own little cities, like European type villas inside of the Moroccan cities. But we enjoyed living in the non-French part, but we also enjoyed visiting the French part, because in the French part, you get an excellent baguette. You could eat wonderful French food, get cheeses, get pastries par excellence. So it was fun to visit, but it was expensive, and we would return, me and my little cadre of visitors and foreigners and hippie types who I met in Marrakesh, and we would come back to our hotel in the old town, which was cheaper, more fun, and had our gang there to hang out with. The Moroccan markets were just incredible. They were so complicated. There was so much going on. There was so much color. And the market in Marrakesh is a particularly fantastic one. It made the markets in Tetuan and Casablanca, where we had visited earlier, seem like nothing. They seemed to go on forever and ever. And we really enjoyed this whole culture. And I would go out there and I would find wonderful things. Like, for instance, they had Irish butter in huge blocks, and you could order it by the gram. Give me 100 grams. They would slap off a piece, put it on a piece of paper, and you go get this great Moroccan wasn't French, excuse me, it was a giant brown bread. It was a round brown bread, flat, but rounded shape. And you take the butter, slap it on there, and you get all kinds of things, olives, you name it. And the market had just about everything. I'm just talking about the whole marketplace was an arena of fantasy and fun. And we enjoyed going there over and over again. And there was so much to see besides the obvious, but you would wander in and get lost. Of course, no one was eating in the market because it was still Ramadan, but it was still a vibrant place for us to visit. One of the interesting and kind of fun things about Morocco was that these folks were used to us Western hippies going down there. And they had a way of ragging us and ragging on us and saying, hey, hippie, hippie, Mr. Hippie, hippie. Everywhere you turn, hippie, hippie, especially the kids, even the little ones, 10, 12, 8-year-olds, ragging on us, calling us names, hippie, hippie, hippie. But everybody was into it. And you'd walk around and they'd give you all kinds of hassle. But it was okay because they knew about it and they kind of played into it, and they realized it was kind of a tourist thing to have us be there, and they kind of put up with us. But it could get sensitive at times when people kind of got on you too much. But it was all right. So being in Morocco during Ramadan, the Islamic holiday, the 1-month holiday where there's no eating during the day and only eating at night, added an extra special air of exoticism and made things much more different than it might be normally if it were not the holiday in this month-long holy month, really. It was important to note that at this time, I missed Halloween. I'm going to miss Thanksgiving. These are American holidays. And when they happen and you're in Morocco, you don't even know they happened. You don't even have any idea what day it is. October 31st, October 30th, November 1st. What's the difference? I gave up my Halloween. And of course, here we are 50 years later, and we got devastated on our Halloween during this terrible pandemic. I would really suffer from that. Halloween happens to be my favorite holiday because I think it's the most fun. And Thanksgiving's coming up, and that was a great holiday. But I did get to enjoy the culture of Morocco and forgetting the culture of America, frankly. So this Ramadan, this special holy month, which incidentally moves around the calendar. Ramadan can be in April for us. It can be in July. It can be in January. But for me, and not knowing what the heck was going on, I come in to Morocco and Ramadan is on. And that means that the market, especially in Marrakesh, just explodes at night because of the pent-up need to eat, want to eat all day long by the local citizenry, and that adds into our joy and our fun. So we wind up going to the market only at night, and to really see the action, I should say, because the eating part, there wasn't much eating going on in the market during the day because it wasn't allowed, really, in terms of the culture and the mores of the people there. The food scene in Morocco, and particularly in Marrakesh, is quite luxuriant. You can see on the screen here is a way that the food is assembled. It's beautiful. The dates, the nuts, the indigenous fruits, everything is very, very meticulously cared for. Another big deal about Morocco, besides this kind of market food, is the eating. Couscous, now that's a big deal. What we've got is these huge dishes of a grain called couscous made with some kinds of various spices and cheeses and things. And then everybody gets their own big spoon and they reach in and eat with the spoon right out of this huge dish in the middle. It may not be that clean, but it's the way it was. And that really was the couscous, the main food of Morocco. Another thing to remember and remark about in Marrakesh and Morocco is the sounds. First of all, you hear the flutes, the drums, the music seems to be everywhere. It's all over the place. And then another thing you hear is the animals, because in the Moroccan cities, in the old cities, there's goats, donkeys, horses, chickens, and they're walking around and they're making noise. You're going to hear them cock-a-doodle-doing, and you really almost feel like you're on a farm when you're in Morocco. The food is great, the farm is cool, but it just makes for a really different feel. So one of the really cool things about Morocco is that it is in Africa, and it's quite incredible because of it. But it is North Africa. And it was cold when I was there in November. Colder than you might think, because Africa is more north in the North Africa, but you need to look at the map to figure that out. So here you are way up north in Morocco, and and then there's the huge Saharan desert. Below that is what we sometimes refer to as Black Africa, the moist jungle type areas or Africa that we think of with safaris and things of that sort. However, the culture of the African nations, the Black African, kind of comes up and seeps through the desert and then comes up to Marrakesh, where you see things like snake charmers. Oh yes, it's real. And they shake bones and they tell stories and you can't understand the languages, but you know what? You know you're in an exotic place. And I thought very seriously about trying to get through and going down and find my way into Black Africa. But it wasn't for me that time. So next week, after an exciting week in Marrakesh, our Stevie Wander decides to go to a town called Essaouira on the Atlantic coast. He gets hooked up with a pretty English girl who he takes a fancy to and winds up cavorting with her on the way, hitchhiking, riding a bus and going into the town of Essaouira on the Atlantic Ocean and having an incredible time in this exotic town that's filled with spirits, the white city on the coast. And we'll hear about that next week.
The sounds of flutes and Arabic music percolate from all directions. I find a jalaba I like in a market stall garment shop. The jalaba is the dominant gown of the Moroccan men. I try a dark brown outfit on, fitting it over my head and pulling down. It fits nice and loose. I purchased the jalaba and a leather shoulder bag. I am to fit in better in this society. Cats are common here. They roam everywhere. As I continue through the market, the sounds are a large part of the journey. In Morocco, music is ever present at all times, it seems. Flutes are blown voraciously around here. The Arabic beat of drums, blended with the chorus of flutes, creates a unique ambiance to the place. It all intermeshes and flows as one constant, ever-playing song. As I move through the streets of Marrakesh, the musicians fade off as new musicians fade in, carrying the ever-present beats. The Moroccan seeks the sound of bliss in music on a daily basis. Even with my haircut, I still hear hippy, hippy, hippy as I walk past the children as they play in the streets everywhere I go. I am lounging on the rooftop of the Hotel Essaouira once again. This place has become a sanctuary for me here in Marrakesh. Every time I go for a long wandering walk into the intense streets below, I'm always happy to return here to escape from it all. From this vantage point, I can see the beautiful snow-covered peaks of the Grand Atlas Mountains. What a majestic setting this is. I'm a stranger in a strange land, and I love it.